Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Grace Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the evening, and with me, as always, we have Brian and Henno. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi.
Hello?
Tentative man.
He's back.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you guys doing?
Not bad. Tired.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been doing puppy duty. Well, I took over from Sharon the last couple nights, so there was not a lot of sleeping.
Right.
The little guy's staying with her like all the time. But
Really?
she has to, and take him out when he wants to go out. And she said she was having a hard time pulling back to sleep. So I was like, well, So I'll typically go in there and grab the dog and then put him back. But the last 2 nights have actually been like, okay, it's time for you to like bond with me a little bit. So let him hang out with me. He's pretty freaking cute.
Yeah.
He is adorable, folks. You need to, there's pictures and stuff on Facebook. You need to check it out.
And Benny's much happier for sure.
That's good.
But when whichever one of us has the duty,
Yeah.
the duty
Right.
ends up not getting a whole lot of sleep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he's getting really good. Like he's getting, well, like he had a little oopsie tonight, peeing oopsie, but it's, way less. Now it's like first thing in the morning, grab him, pick him up, take him outside. Hey, peed and pooped.
Yeah.
All, he's got a very distinctive, if if I had to run around, dance, and jump and bounce like that before I had to poop, it'd be an entertaining morning at my house.
Right.
It's darn funny what's going on. I'm like, all right, what are you doing? It's a little bing, 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 then finally,
Like if he did all that before he went outside, it makes sense more because you'd be like, oh, that's the I gotta go dance.
Go outside. No,
Yeah.
It's when he's outside that all of a sudden it's like I think he's just gonna pee and then he heads back and starts doing this crazy action. I was like, oh, okay, I see. So, but he's been entertaining, and like I said, Benny's much happier. Therefore, Bogart's much happier, and it's nice to have we can just let the two of them just go at it for a while and ignore them, which is nice. I don't have to keep paying attention to him, and he's getting so smart. He figured out stairs this way and how to jump here, and he's just quickly adapting.
Good.
So that's fun, and what else has been going on? Work's been good. Still feeling really productive at work, and it's kind of strange how I've this office administrator kind of thing, facilities administrator, I've really kind of I'm surprisingly more into it than I thought I was going to be. Like when I'm doing it, I am so productive, and then when I go to do like drywall, I'm like, yeah, what's going on with my phone? Doing something I'm really good at, and it's something, but I just suddenly was like, but for some reason sitting in the office, it's working for me.
Yeah.
Doing orders and spreadsheets. I was kind of surprised, but maybe it's just a maturity thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your body's probably like, hey, like,
it is seriously.
It's a lot easier on me than this other stuff.
It really is. And then let's see what else. It's everyone's work's just so great. They like the Antonio, Omar, and Frank all went to training together. All jumped in the same car. Drove down together, hung out together. It was,
Wow.
a far cry from when I got left behind on crutches.
No.
Wow.
So things are looking better.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Right.
Music's been pretty good. Been writing music still, and yeah, I don't have a whole lot to complain about right now. Going to California for Thanksgiving, looking forward to that, and that's about it. Oh, except today was great. I got a message about our trip to Jamaica in April saying that the flights changed. And you get those all the time. Like they change it like 2 or 3 minutes. And this one, I'm like, okay, what'd they change? And I was like, okay, your flight arrives in Boston at 6:30 a.m. and your flight that was going to be at 8 o'clock to Montego Bay is now at 6 o'clock to Atlanta. And I'm like, I wonder how I catch a 6 o'clock flight when I arrive at 6:30.
Oh no.
And it's actually illegal for them to book that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is illegal for them to make that booking. They should have actually, I guess that's their way of saying call us.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there's any chance maybe it's just like a placeholder until it's fixed or something, but if it's not supposed to be booked.
Yeah, they pretty much said, well, we can't figure out a way to get you to where you're going. And I'm like, yeah, you can. But I'm gonna have to call somebody. But that's I've been booked on flights where the layover was there's a certain there's a federally mandated limit or something. Anyhow, one time I got booked on this one. I didn't make the connection, and there's like, you should have. This is actually not legal to book you on with a connection. It's with too it's too short.
Oh,
They can't do that. And I was like, and that was one that I'd actually booked in advance. But yeah, anyhow, that was my little frustration when I got home. I'm like, okay, I got to call them. Luckily with their phone number that they give you for the rebooking stuff, you don't have to sit on hold. They give you a special phone number to call.
Well, that's cool. And also they've, you've got enough time that, it's not like your flight's next week or something for it. You got plenty of time to rebook that. So that's good too.
If we need to change the dates, we can change the dates.
Yeah, exactly.
Figure it out. But here's the good news is that the reason I chose these dates is because the other dates was way more expensive. And hopefully they will be generous in rebooking us since it's on them.
Yeah.
And maybe I can get on one of the other dates that was more expensive and for the same price. But we shall see.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been super up like proactive and upfront about getting my Christmas gifts. I almost got all of them already done.
I haven't bought one yet.
It's so good to I'm just like, credit card, I don't care. The money will come, before Christmas. I'll get it paid off. I'm just getting this stuff so I can just not even worry about it. Because I was like, if I'm going back to California, I might as well just bring stuff with me.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Save shipping it to them and all this other stuff. So
Totally. Yeah, because even though it's not that far from you to California, shipping's quite a bit more this year. So, yeah. Especially because they raise the rates and there's a, a surcharge for the holidays on top of it from most of the places. So, that's pretty awesome.
There you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Life's pretty good right now.
Good.
Yeah. How about you?
I'm in the same boat, honestly. Things are going pretty darn swimmingly. I do not have much to complain about. Once we've got the medicine straightened out, which it looks like we have, my head's been behaving itself fairly well. I'm still super, super focused on do not multitask. I am not multitasking at all. And if I find myself, my head starting to go in too many different directions, I break it down to absolute brass tacks. It's like, left foot, right foot. If I'm brushing my teeth, right side, left side, up side, down side.
Yep.
I literally am in my head counting my brush strokes as I'm brushing my hair, just to keep myself focused on the task at hand. One thing at a time. I am not trying super hard not to allow my brain to wander into all of the what ifs and the racing thoughts and all of the stuffs. So I'm like, nope. I mean, there's absolutely nothing going on in my life right now that I have to be obsessing on. Everything that's going on, it's small potato stuff. So, so I've been kind of really just focusing on keeping task at hand. This week, my husband is hunting. So, which normally we work opposite shifts, so we don't get a lot of time together to begin with. So him being gone during the week's really not a big change in things as far as me and him. But for my dogs, who are used to having a human with them pretty much 24/7, they're home by themselves for pretty much all day. So almost 10 hours they're by themselves. Do not know what to do with themselves. When I come in the door, it's like the Dalai Lama walked in. I mean, they are falling over themselves with excitement. And I mean, so much so that it's difficult to get them out the door to go to the bathroom. So they do their business and get their butts in as quick as possible because they're like, Mama's home. So that's kind of cool. And they are being super, super duper cuddly and super duper all over me all the time. So some people have weighted blankets. I have weighted dogs because they both like to be on me at the same time. And we have a 50-pounder and a 60-pounder. So yeah, I have like a 110-pound of dog that likes to lay on me. And it's a heated blanket, which is kind of cool. Heat and weight, great. So it's actually that's been really good because that kind of helps to kind of fill in that gap a little bit, because I do need that type of connection. It's weird because I can't speak highly enough about weighted blankets. Let's just put it that way. And dogs are like the best weighted blanket ever. I mean, same thing with cats. Pretty much animals in general are the best weighted blankets ever because they're warm. They give you the extra weight that you need for the security, comfort aspect of things. And also they are just, wonderful balls of cuddles. So that's been kind of cool. So I've been doing that. I've been playing more video games to kind of distract myself from if my head starts going one way or another. So I've been playing some different video games, which has been fun to kind of explore that aspect of my life again. It's been a good, at least 15 years, I would guess. Maybe not quite that long, 10 years, since I really played games on a regular. So that's been kind of cool to kind of explore former interest in reading. I read a book. I haven't read a book in forever. And I sat down and actually read a book. I have logged onto Twitter once or twice for just a few minutes since I went dark, and I'm kind of okay with it. And then I have been focusing on Facebook. I've been on Facebook quite a bit, but I haven't really posted. It's mostly dog and cat videos. And that's so that's pretty much my timeline. It's old friends, family, and dog and cat videos. Mostly pity videos. Because I have 2 pitties. So it's funny because like people are asking questions about pitties, and I'm like, oh, so I'm like answering questions. I'm like, oh, you want to try this or try that type of, giving them tips and explaining different things to them and stuff. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. So, it's just, it's kind of taking on its own different tack.
Well, you're being of service.
Yeah, it's like, that's kind of how it's more of a, I don't even know.
You're being productive as well versus like, when you just post something on Twitter, it's just like, here's blah, and it's really generally not, it's just a blurb of some sort. Whereas this, you're potentially helping somebody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's been good. And I felt really good about it. And work's frustrating. I'm trying to work through that though. Something that I have noticed that I'm getting territorial again about my work. And so I have to stop that because it's not a healthy or a good thing. Because especially I'm getting territorial about work that I'm not that happy with, that I'm not all that crazy about. So if I'm not really all that crazy about the work, why am I getting bent out of shape if someone's like assisting or, doing things with it? Isn't that a good thing? Get them to help me get it off my plate so I can actually start doing something that I truly do enjoy doing. So I'm really trying to work through and fight the fact that getting my ego too invested in specific things. It just doesn't pay. In the end, if you get territorial, you get real protective of your work, it ends up biting you. It always has in the past for me. So I'm like, I just need to stop.
And it's
just
really
say,
not and it's really not yours.
Exactly.
Is another part of it. It's like it is because you're the one assigned to blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, at any time, they could go, hey, this isn't yours anymore. We're moving this to this person. So it's like there's no reason to get that attached to a lot of it. Like you said, especially stuff, if it's something you don't really want on your plate, it's like, why? I mean, I'm not saying,
Mm-hmm.
put in no effort or something, but it's like, hey, if someone else wants to take it, you might, be like, hey, go on, have at it.
Exactly. And, I got an interesting meeting tomorrow that I get to explain to somebody who is basically, I need basic data, and they keep giving me fancied up data. And I have to explain to them that it's like the fancied up stuff with all the details and all the information and all this color coding, but it doesn't do anything for anybody in my company, other than confuse and cloudy up everything. So keep it simple. Just keep it real simple. Just say, this is the data. This is what it's supposed to be. This is what you need to do. That's all.
Yeah.
So I've given that message a few times over. Hasn't been received. So hoping maybe tomorrow, with some luck, this meeting, we can get that hammered out completely.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then yay, holidays. So starting next week, pretty much my entire month of December, I have Mondays off and Fridays I'm working from home. So
nice.
Yeah. So I basically 3 days in the office, 2 days home, 2 days on the weekends. Bunch of fun stuff. So
nice.
The microphone picked up that cry. That was Molly's excitement of having Mama home. Or it could be something that she saw out the window. She is very adamantly gazing out the window.
Fair enough.
Anywho, so Brian, how are you?
This last week was really interesting because I didn't have a podcast to do. And that's the first time I haven't had a podcast at all in I don't know how long. Because normally, if like we do Salty Language every week, but since things got in our way the week before, we recorded a longer episode on Friday, split it into 2. So I just posted that this week. So all I had to do was post it. I didn't have to do, we didn't record it. I didn't have to do any editing. It was literally just, put it up. And then it was an off week for us this last week. So it was so weird because the whole week I kept feeling like I'm forgetting something or there should be something else. But it was really nice to kind of have that time off, not that I'm going to make any other changes to like the schedules or whatever kind of a thing, but it was just nice to kind of have that time to just not feel any of the responsibility of doing any of these. But I also really missed it, like we recorded Monday Salty Language and it was like, yeah, it felt like forever since we'd recorded. It had been, a week and a half basically. So it was, it felt like it had been so long since we recorded. And I'm like, yeah, it's just, by Friday it was like, God, I want to go record again. So, it was nice to get back to it. Sorry. Jen's dog is doing all they can to get on her and in the camera. So, but having said that, I met with my social worker last week week before, I don't remember which it was now, about some stuff. I talked with her about some concerns that I've been having because I've noticed some stuff about my mental health has been getting worse. I have therapy tomorrow, which I'm glad I scheduled it the way I did because I'm really at a point where I feel like I need it again. Like I told Jen yesterday, her and I went out and had dinner, and it's very much, I'm having a really hard time starting anything, no matter what it is, whether it's something I enjoy of any kind. And what I'm seeing is the issues I had with drawing or creating art have now permeated into everything in my life, to where no matter what it is, I have a really hard time taking the first step. I'm very much feeling like cocooned, like all I want to do is just, wrap myself up and not care and not do anything. And obviously that's a concern. So I talked with the one, she's going to talk to my psychiatrist, and then tomorrow I have therapy. So we'll, discuss it there and hopefully come up with a new attack plan for what's going on here. 'Cause it's really frustrating. Even hard for me to do, like I said, stuff that I know I'll enjoy. It's getting harder, and I'm feeling it well in advance now. It used to be more like a few days before something I would really start to kind of feel dread or really try to come up with reasons not to do something. And now my brain's doing that like a week out, 2 weeks out, type stuff. So that's, like I said, no good, and hopefully we'll get that straightened out. But it's been really concerning because I don't know. Like I think I've known that it's been getting worse, but I didn't really pay attention to it or really give it any credit for how bad it was getting. And then all of a sudden it felt really bad for me. And I'm like, and I even had a moment kind of like, well, where did this come from? And then it's like, hey, dummy, you've known this whole time. You've been ignoring the red flags. Like, it was there this whole time. Like, don't act like you didn't, kind of a thing, So yeah, that's, it sucks. Overall, I'm okay. Like I told the social worker, I was like, there's still no thoughts of self-harm or anything like that. I just don't care. That's kind of where I'm at. It isn't that I want to do anything to myself or anything along those lines. It's like, I just don't care. Like, I'm very heavily in the, like, if I don't wake up, cool. It's fine. Like if I do, okay. Like I'm just very much indifferent about a lot right now. And I've been feeling a lot of apathy towards a lot of things. And, apathy is a big red flag to me. Like when I feel I fall into that, that's when I know my depression is really ramping up. Because like I've explained to a lot of people, it's like depression for me and a lot of people does not manifest as sadness. A lot of times it manifests as apathy, which is so much worse. Like at least with sadness, you really are feeling something still. Apathy, you're just like, okay, Like even last night, Jen asked me where if I had any preference on where to go to eat. What was my response to you? Right? It was very much like whatever. It was just
pretty much.
And part of that is really, I know I'm not like I'm very okay with any place that has like American fare basically. So pretty much anywhere I go with someone, I'll find something that I can eat. So I've gotten to where I'm kind of like, hey, if there's something that sounds amazing to you, nothing sounds amazing to me. So if something does sound great to you, let's go there so you can get something you're happy about, and I'll find something I'll be fine with, So it isn't about people pleasing or any of that. It's like, I just literally don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But I know, I know with Jen, I know that indifference is maddening because her and I have had plenty of conversations over the years about it, but I can't help it. That's truly how I feel,
Mm-hmm.
And, but, in some situations like that one, it's like, whatever, we'll figure out something. But there's other parts of your life where you really can't be indifferent. Like you really do have to make a move some way. So, yeah. And that's the thing. I don't want to fall into being comfortable in the apathy because it's really easy. Especially for anyone who's dealt with depression for a long time, this is maybe the most comfortable place. Because apathy is, don't push yourself out of your comfort zone. Don't push yourself to do things. It's literally like, just lie in bed. That's great. like that's the move. And who wouldn't like to just go, you know what, bed's comfy today and just stay in bed all day, but it's no good. I can't let myself fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But like I said, I've got plans in place. I'm talking with people. I'm, open to maybe switching my medicine regimen or whatever needs to be done essentially to try to fix it, because this is, like I said, this is not how I want to live. But it's also weird. I was telling my social worker that, like, I look at the box of medicines I'm on, and I'm on quite a few because I have a lot going on. And it's really hard not to look at a big box of medicines and go, and be frustrated, because it's like, I need all of that to be air quote normal, to function. And it's not like I've had some it's like when hey, someone had a liver transplant, they have to take like 150 pills every day. It's like, well, that makes sense. Your body's constantly, needing those things to make sure that you get certain things and doesn't reject and all. It's so weird how easily I can look at that and go, yeah, that's fine. But when it's for me, and, I'll immediately look at it and go, almost like there's that's wrong. Like, it shouldn't be like that and all this. And it's like, but the flip on it is, like, how amazing is it that we do live in a time that there are those things that can help? At least this isn't time where they will be like, well, let's put some leeches on you and see what happens, or, yeah, or a lobotomy, or cut,
Mm-hmm.
do random crazy stuff that, wouldn't do any good. At least, these things there's some evidence that they do help some people or whatever. But, anyway, one of the big, takeaways for the week for me, and I wanted to share this because I really think this could be a big win for someone. And it was a good moment when it was mentioned to me. I was telling the social worker, counselor, I don't remember her official title and this stuff. So I don't mean to only call her a social worker, because I feel like she's very much like our friend Jeannie. I think she has a bunch of letters at the end of her name. So I'm probably underselling her qualifications. But I was telling her about, going down the what if rabbit hole. Worst case scenario kind of thing. And she was like, have you ever tried doing the opposite? Instead of saying, what if the worst thing that happens? She's like, have you ever done the, what if the best thing happens? What if it's amazing? What if I have a great time? What if I have, she's like, instead of like, oh, well, what if there's a huge crowd? Well, what if there isn't? What if there's actually a moderate sized crowd? Or what if, I feel claustrophobic? Well, what if you don't? What if you actually feel in the moment and are okay with life and whatever? Or, what if I feel in danger? It's like, well, what if you don't? Because realistically, there is a chance of that as well. It's not like it's 100% that you're gonna feel the other way. That's all projection. We're assuming that's how we're gonna feel, because maybe it's on a 100% scale, maybe it's 60-40 that it's gonna happen, because it tends to happen. But as long as there's that other chance, why not give that some weight as well? And I thought that was a really good point, because it is something I have never ever done in those scenarios, so it's something that I will try, but it's hard because my brain it's still not wired to think positively. It's something I'm still fighting against, but it's still, like I said, I thought that was kind of a cool, a good technique that, somebody else might, well, heck, anybody really, again, doesn't have to be a mental health thing. It's just, instead of worst case scenarioing, whatever. I had a great example. Someone I follow on Twitter the other day, she had posted a few days before how she screwed up big time at work, like made a massive mistake and thought she was going to get fired. Her boss called her in 2 days later and was like, hey, we need to talk. Her boss called her in and gave her a raise and a promotion, and basically was like, and she was like, well, I made all this mistake. And he goes, it happens. But one time you make a mistake, but you've been working here all these years and you've done nothing but great work. So
Yeah. Awesome.
even though you made a mistake, yes. And of course we have to talk about that, and we have to make sure things so that doesn't happen again. But we want you, we see you as a valuable employee and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that was the best case scenario. You know, whereas going in, I bet she thought best case scenario, I keep my job. You know, like, or maybe, you know, best case scenario, I don't get fired, basically. And it turns out best case scenario was actually a promotion and a raise. You know, never would have had, your brain would have gone down that way, because I think anyone really probably would have thought the other way, because it's like, man, I just screwed up. Now, you know, I'm in for a butt chewing, if nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure she probably did get a bit of a butt chewing, because, you know, you have to. There's just those times in work where we've talked about before, you know, where you walk in and you go, okay, and they go, hey, here's your write-up, and you look at it and go, yep, I sure did do that, and sign it and walk away. You know, like, that's just how it is sometimes. But, yeah, anyway, so I thought that was, you know, something good to share, because it could be something that really could help. If nothing else, try doing it, you know, as we all hit those times, because a lot of us do worst case scenario type stuff, or what ifs. And, you know, maybe it'll at least help the cause and alleviate a little anxiety in some of us. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it won't.
I agree.
It's worth a try, though, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's one of those times, I think, where, you know, whenever somebody talks about thinking positively and people are like, well, if I could just think positively, you know, and it's like, but this is one of those times where it's like, if you can catch it and think positively here, it really can change how you're looking at it. And I'm not saying go crazy the other way either. You know, you don't have to even go best case scenario. You could just go, what if it's a good time? What if it's, you know, what if I don't get fired? You know, like that kind of thing. So, like, you know, because really, like in that scenario with that person, you're walking into your boss's office, and usually I think the strategy would be, okay, I've got to defend myself for how I screwed up, or have a plan for going forward so that they know I learned and won't do it again, right? And that's usually kind of the way we're trained in, you know, the workplace, is so that, you know, because obviously if they think you're likely to do it again, they may not want to keep you, especially if it costs company money or something, you know. So anyway. But yeah, I think that's it for me. I think that was, you know, like I said, I don't know, I feel like my footing's unsure at the moment, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, Hopefully it'll be a good thing. Hopefully, whether it's medicine or a change in what we talk about in therapy or both, you know, hopefully, you know, I get my strategy back. I feel like this is one of those times where I feel like I've kind of taken a step backwards, but I don't see that as a bad thing anymore. I used to be very much, I have to run in place or it's bad. And now it's like, no, you can slide backwards a little bit and regroup and then get a head of steam going forward again, you know? I think that's an important lesson to learn.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you're looking at adding some tools to help you engage.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, apathy just makes you, like, that whole thing of like, well, where do you want to go? I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not even engaging in where you're at.
Right,
It's not
exactly.
even where am I right now?
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing? It's and that those are tools that you can pick up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you're saying, there's simple things that you can do, like just little tweaks, little reframes to allow you to re-engage in the situation and hopefully build that back as a habit.
Right. Yeah, because that's really what it's become. Is it's, you know, like I said, in some things I get it. Some things are still, you know, there's levels of it. But like, you know, telling somebody where I'd like to eat is something I should be able to do. Right? That you should feel like you should care enough about, at least to have a suggestion, or I'm feeling like, hey, you know, burgers sound good to me. It doesn't even have to be specific. Just be like, you know, burger sounds good tonight, or something like that. And don't get me wrong, we all have days where just, you know, nothing just sounds good. That can happen. But I'm noticing it's all the time with me. I'm no matter who I'm with, that's basically what I'm doing. Is I'm just like, I'm open, whatever. And it's just like I said, it's not about a people-pleasing thing or anything like that as much as it's just, it's the truth. It's actually how I feel at the moment is I don't care. You know, wherever we end up, I'll figure it out, you know, because there is truth in that, but that, again, that's that apathy, that's the comfort, because I don't really have to make any choice. And then once I'm in a place, it's like, well, here are the choices. Like, you have to pick from something here, there's no, it's narrowed down so much, and it's, I don't have a problem from that point, but it's when it goes that next step bigger, that's where it is. And like I said, I'm noticing it with like everything, and it's really frustrating. Like even last night, the place me and Jen were at, they had a variety of whiskeys and beers and whatever. And I was like, I'm going to have a whiskey. And it's like, I'm looking at this list and whatever. And, the drink I ended up choosing was a drink I like anyway. But part of the reason I probably chose it was it has my comfort bourbon in it, which is Bulleit bourbon. So if it had been a new bourbon, I wonder if I would have picked it. I probably would have. I think I would have, but I don't know if I would have. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like I told Jen, when I'm playing video games right now, I'm falling back into like, I only do like the daily task stuff, and then I play the same games. And I still have, as I talked on Salty Language, I have a stack of games I have not played yet. I haven't even played them at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and Jen, that never would have been me in the past. I would have at least tried all the games, So, yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and like you said, Thanksgiving's coming up too, and that's a whole other basket of things. Because again, along with this other stuff, I can feel the agoraphobia that I'm fighting is getting worse, and significantly worse. So that's something that, like I said, we'll be talking about. So I'll hopefully have an update next time, because I will have talked to my therapist and the other one that's talked to my psychiatrist by then. So we'll see where things go from here.
Sounds good. So, what do we want to talk about tonight, guys?
Well, I still have the other half of that article if we want to just finish that out from a while ago.
Why not?
Okay. And I believe I did the first 5 of that, didn't I? The Neurotypicals Guide to Adults with Sensory Processing Disorder is what it was called. And again, I'll have the link in the show notes. And, we have a part 1 to this if you want to hear us talk about the first 5. So number 6 on here is, what's benign to you isn't what's benign to an SPDer. It says our emotional and behavioral responses of what are thought of as common, easy, and problem-free situations, a picnic, an office holiday party, a library, a department store, while warranted based on how we're feeling internally, look out of place and blown out of proportion to those on the outside. Who fears the circus? Who shies away from a dinner date? Who finds outdoor summer movies excruciating? Who is terrified of the local beer garden? It says we SPDers. Fun things are not always benign. SPDs, much like that pesky sibling they mentioned in number 5, except we're being poked and prodded all the time, even in moments deemed enjoyable by the neurotypicals in our midst. If the event engages our most sensitive senses to a point beyond our comfort level, read that final sibling eye poke before you lose your cool, we will often refuse to participate in an event, or we will be forced to work supremely hard to keep ourselves feeling as well as possible during the event. Or they also don't mention, or sometimes leave an event because you just can't handle it. It says, this is more taxing and overwhelming than I have room to properly explain, so take my word for it. All of this while our brain's faulty wiring is sparking wildly, our emotions are overflowing, and our gut is telling us to run away, hide in the corner / punch the waiter. I think, Henno, you actually were telling us before we recorded, I think you have a perfect example of this, at the restaurant.
Oh, yeah. That's the guy that was popping the packing.
Yeah.
Blast bubbles. Yeah.
Right. And you're out, you're normally you'd be like, whatever. For most people, it's probably not a huge deal, but it can get annoying for somebody with sensory processing disorder or even misophonia, those kind of things. you described it as like they just kept popping the like bubbles, like bubble wrap. And I was like, at first it'd be like, yeah, whatever. After a few minutes, it's very much like I would want to scream at the person. Yeah. Like, will you stop it? Like
that was how I felt in that situation. It wasn't so much about myself. It was annoying because I could hear it behind me.
Yeah.
But I'm aware of the fact that this could really ruin someone's moment.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about and what this article is talking about is the kind of things that sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
It could be so bad that you end up having to leave.
Right. And I have. There have been places where, and it's usually with me, it'll end up being like a crying baby, or there's just some really obnoxious person, or, something more along those lines. Or like, have you ever stood in line at like McDonald's and when like an order is ready, they have like the thing beeps and they don't stop it? After about a minute of that, I want to go over the counter and do it myself because it's absolutely driving me beyond crazy, And in that situation, it's not as bad, but it's like with you, it's like if I were out to eat with you, we're having a nice time, and then that keeps going on, that's all I'm going to focus on.
That's it.
And like you said, that ruins it. Our conversation's not going to be the same, and I'm going to be like, can we, hey, you ready to go?
You won't even let go of it for a while, just because it's this thing is like, because I consider myself neurotypical.
Mm-hmm.
It bothered me afterwards.
Right.
I carried on about it.
Yeah.
And now, if you truly had a sensitivity about it, this could be.
Yeah. And like
ruin the experience.
And for me, it wouldn't leave when we left. Like, it wouldn't stay at the door.
Yeah.
I would carry that anger for a little while because it would just, like, geez, like, can you believe that? Like, we had to leave to get away. And I'd probably tell someone else that story later. And, it wouldn't just dissipate because, okay, we're outside. There are times where something will drive me crazy inside and we'll get outside and be like, oh, like, I can just hear, cars, open space, nothing, no one thing's jumping out, So, yeah. Number 7 on here, it says, what's enough for you isn't enough for what enough. Yeah. For the last 2 days, I've just had the fattest dang tongue. What's enough for you isn't what's enough for an SPDer. Some of our senses are less sensitive. Like I said earlier, while I might avoid situations that challenge my visual or auditory differences, I will often actively seek input from tactile and proprioceptive sources. I will go overboard trying to find my daily hug if my husband/handler is out of town. And if I spend an entire day without that deep pressure touch, I will be emotional and enact certain behaviors. In some ways, this is like the opposite of the eye-poking analogy. Here, we are almost asking our irritating sibling to just go ahead and poke us square in the eye and never stop. It says, please, we beg them. It's somehow comforting and will stop taunting you in front of your friends if you just continue. It's a counterintuitive statement, but we sometimes need input from particular senses or we feel completely empty and devoid of their properties. It says, think about that soundboard again for a second. If certain toggles are slid too low, the concert is missing crucial components. All toggles need to be somewhat aligned for a being to feel in harmony. And because some of our toggles are too high and some are too low, we are desperately seeking balance. Yeah, go figure. There's that balance word. It keeps popping up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next one is SPD adults often have other diagnoses as well. Because we don't know what was going on with our systems growing up, and because we so often thought that we were just being crazy/strange kids, teens, young adults, due to our reaction to those benign situations I mentioned earlier, we learned to fear and avoid many places and activities in the event we'd feel uncomfortable. When our emotions and our behaviors have no noteworthy origin or cause to point to, like I feel awful because of X, we're left pointing at ourselves and pointing out into nothingness. This scenario is to blame. We feel anxious and depressed, and we assign deep meaning to the wrong things. Anxiety disorders and depression are supremely common secondary diagnoses for adults with SPD, but our issues can span the gamut.
one person's discomfort having food in their mouth can look like an eating disorder, while another's swinging moods can look like a personality disorder or a mood disorder. Some of these diagnoses exist on their own. Some are SPD in disguise, and some are hardwired patterns from decades of misunderstanding. And I think that was the thing. Like, growing up, you know, like, I've had the issue with people eating. Like, the sounds of them eating, crunching chips. It's for me, most of it is if the people won't close their mouths. The ones that close their mouths bother me still, but not as badly. I've had that since I was a little kid. Like, I remember being a little kid and just hearing people eat chips, and I just felt like my skeleton was going to come out of my skin. You know, like, I was just so like, oh, and you know, it started more of it just being like, like, and then I noticed there's that rage of the, like, everything in me wants to just yell at them, you know, like, close your mouth, or can, you know, that kind of stuff. And, you know,
like, hey, pie hole.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it is. And it's like, you know, and I didn't know for a long time where that came from. And I wasn't alone. I knew other people who had the same thing that weren't just like, it's so rude, but were like, when I'd be like, no, I don't, like, I get angry, and they go, yeah, like, right away. And it's like, yes, you know, and I had talked with people online about it and all this. And then finally, like, misophonia, it got labeled as misophonia. And I'm like, you know, and at first they were like, well, they don't know if this is a real thing. I'm like, I've talked to a lot of people who 100% know this is a real thing, you know, like, I know on paper you may not be able to point to any one thing, you know, but it's 100% something groups of us feel. And these are people who felt it for years before they ever talked to anyone else. And the second somebody was like, do you get this? And they go, yes. It's like, so yeah, you know. Now it's like, it feels a little more comfortable because it's like, at least there's a dang name for it and we can talk about it and whatever, you know. But they're right. There is a lot of this stuff that does go hand in hand with other things, you know. So you never know. It could be a misdiagnosis at some point, or you know, or maybe not enough of a diagnosis, depending on what it is. You know, you could have been told you have misophonia, and maybe it's actually more of a sensory processing disorder, which is a different level of thing, because misophonia is pretty much only the ears. Sensory processing disorder can affect other senses.
Yeah, a friend of mine, his daughter has sensory issues, and was actually in her uncle's wedding, and they planned 6 months in advance. They got the dress because she's very sensitive to clothing and different other things. And so they practiced with the dress for 6 months, having her wear it for long periods of time and get comfortable with it so that she saw it as a good thing, and, you know, really worked hard on it. And even to the day of, you know, I told him, I said, don't push her down the aisle. I'm like, just, you know, because she's 6.
Yeah.
I said, so you just gotta let her do her thing.
Right.
You know, if she doesn't, my friend was in the wedding, but his wife was in the audience. I'm like, if she needs to go sit with mom, she goes sits with mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if she can make it down the aisle, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
She got about halfway down the aisle and decided that it was not for her. And so she went and sat with mom. And after a little bit, her sister was up at the altar, and it's part of the party. She decided she wanted to go stand with her sister, and that worked too. So then she got up and she went and stood with the sister for the rest of the ceremony. So she actually did really well, considering.
Right.
You know, but it's really hard, especially when you're that age, because she does not have the words to be able to express what's going through her mind and what's going through her system. So like you were saying when you were a kid, and you heard that they were, someone chewing with their mouth open, and you just wanted to like, yell and scream. But you're also a kid, and that's an adult, and there's so many different layers to it when you're a kid. And she just doesn't have a lot of times the words to be able to express herself.
Yeah.
So it comes out in ways that are probably not the most appropriate. But I mean, for her, that's how she can express herself.
Yeah.
Well, so
a lot of the people that, this is, like they were saying with the overlap in diagnosis and stuff too, is that this kind of thing, sensory issues, is very common in people who are on the autistic spectrum. And that's why, a lot of times, like, I didn't know for a long time, like, you'd see somebody out in public and you'd see them wearing, like headphones, like I don't mean like Beats or something like that, but like the cans that were noise like the ones that you would see somebody on a construction site wear. And I was always like confused why people were wearing them, like at a monster truck rally or something, you'd go, oh, they're protecting their hearing, but you'd see somebody in like, Walmart walking around with them, and and for a long time I didn't understand. And it's because of these sensory issues that noises, and a lot of noises are like that. And that's why I have a set of noise canceling earbuds now for this reason, because like if I'm out in a store or something, if there's something that's irritating me, I can turn the noise canceling on, and it really has helped. Now, it doesn't work as well when someone's eating. Like if you're out to eat with someone and they're an obnoxious eater, it's not going to help me as much because I can't have a conversation real well with the noise canceling on. But, if it's somebody I'm eating with in a car, I may just have to be like, hey, while we're eating, I got to turn these on. So, like, sorry, but I have to, because there's sometimes a radio is enough in the car. Sometimes it's not enough. But anyway, like you said, it's in that scenario, it's nice because they didn't push anything with her. They just, okay, this is, first of all, she's 6 years old. I think that was about how old let's see, how old was I? I don't remember how old I was when I was the ring bearer in my one sister's wedding. And I was 3. That's how old I was. I was 3. And, I basically just introduced myself to everybody right in the middle of things. I'm like, I'm Uncle Brian, or whatever, and, and I just, you never know with a kid how they're going to react in those scenarios. It's always such a dice roll, I've seen flower girls where they just dump all the flowers right away, and some will do, the way you're supposed to and all the way down the aisle, you never know. But it's just best especially with kids involved, it's like, just kind of let them, just be who they are and have a backup plan, so if they're a ring bearer of some sort, or you can still get the rings delivered where you need them or something. But, yeah, that's.
Well, and that's the whole key. Like I told him, I said, don't push things. Just let things happen the way they're supposed to, because the last thing that you want is your daughter to be walking down the aisle, like bawling her eyes out, or, or just having a fit because somebody is forcing her to do something she doesn't want to do. And, and it disrupts the wedding.
Yeah.
You want to do what's going to be best for everybody in the whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. But they are working very, very hard to try to find solutions and alternatives to help her in the best way they possibly know how.
Mm-hmm.
She's got really bad allergies too, as you can relate, is very miserable. So, the poor little thing is going through a lot.
Yeah.
But I know that they're trying very hard to try to help her in every way they can possibly think of.
Yeah.
So, which is honestly all you can really ask from a parent.
And it's nice now. There is a lot more options and a lot more talking about these things, and there's more education on the internet, and than there used to be. So it's really it's been very helpful and there's groups and stuff. I have a cousin who has a daughter that's autistic, and they've used internet groups and learned a lot from other parents and different stuff. And it's really nice that especially if nothing else, they can find out whether it's autism or if it isn't, even if it's still just the sensory stuff. It's like you find out you're not alone. That there's other parents going through the same thing, or other people going through the same thing as you. That's why I said it was so nice with me as I started talking with other people, and they'd talk about essentially having misophonia too. And I've talked with people in Twitter groups that I'm in that one woman in there, I think she realized that her son has misophonia because she was talking about things he did, and when I talked about things I did, and she was like, oh my God, he does the same things, and it's like, so then she started looking into it, and it's like, yeah, it's great when there's something out there that you can go, okay, this seems, even if it's not, it's really close.
Yeah.
At least you can kind of, okay, this is where I can point my strategies, and my attack is, how can I help this, or can I go talk to my doctor about this and see what they say, so it's a really nice thing when you can, find those things out there. So like you said, it's like all you can do is your best. And sometimes it's very much a throw everything at the wall, because, everybody has a suggestion for me for how to deal with my misophonia. And I appreciate it, but also they have no idea what they're talking about, because a lot of people are like, well, can't you just hum or plug your ears? And it's like, no, you don't understand. When you plug your ears, you can still hear. Like,
sometimes it gets amplified.
Yes. And that's something you can find too. Like, there's some of these headphones that will do like, God, I used to have a set that did like noise canceling, but if something made sounds directly to the side of me, I could hear it like they were yelling right in my ear. It would block a lot of other stuff, but for some reason, stuff that was like directly in line with my ears, I could totally hear it like it wasn't blocked at all. And like I said, noise canceling's great, but you can't really have noise canceling on when you're trying to carry on a conversation, or, during certain things. It's just not, you shouldn't have noise canceling on like while you're driving, or, if you're on a bike or out for a walk in, where there's heavy traffic or something, because then it can be a danger to you. So it helps, but it's not an answer. And unfortunately, from the stuff I've read, the only real treatment right now, there's more, but the main one that was being used is essentially just exposure therapy. And exposure therapy is hit or miss, like a lot of these kind of therapies. So but as number 9 here mentioned, it says adults thrive with multiple levels of treatment. It says most people assume that SPD means occupational therapy, and they're partially right. OT is the place for people, or for SPD adults to begin their diagnostic journey. It's a place where they're given their diagnosis, put on a sensory diet, which means exercises, tools, and techniques to help regulate their sensory soundboard. And where someone says, usually for the first time, hey, you're not crazy, you're just wired differently, is truly an incredible experience. And I completely agree. Like I said, I was very much, when I read about misophonia, and I was like, yes, this, like the fact that most people's ears tune out all those little clinks on a plate at a restaurant, the little noises here and there, a clock ticking in a room with other noises going on. Whoa, geez. Boy, that gave Jen a start. Those kind of things. And my brain just doesn't do that. It just doesn't filter those sounds out the way. That's why most people eating doesn't bother most people. Unless it's really like smacking your lips and making obnoxious level of sounds. It doesn't have to be obnoxious levels for it to bother me, So I can only imagine with some of the other stuff people with SPD deal with, like what for them is, little sounds to everyone else, but to them it's like, oh, would you stop it? Or not just sounds. Sometimes it can be lights. That's why there are a lot of places now that are starting to do. I read I think it was Kroger. It was doing a thing. I don't remember. It wasn't Kroger. I don't know, there was a grocery chain that was going to start having hours to where they were going to, or maybe it was Target, where they were going to turn the lights down a little bit and not have bright lights in the store and stuff, so people with sensory issues wouldn't be as assaulted by the sound and the brightness and whatever. Because you think about, like, if you go into like Best Buy and you go back near like the TV area, there's a lot of sound, the lights are bright, there's a whole lot of stimulation going on there to your senses. And for most people, it's not that big a deal. Our brains filter out the sound, our eyes will filter the light to where it's not that big a deal. But for somebody with sensory issues, it could be a nightmare walking into that, Or like, me walking in anywhere they've sprayed perfume or cologne.
There you go.
But that's a whole different story. I don't think that has as much to do with this as it is, but anyway. But yeah, they talk quite a bit here about, here we go. So this person says that they believe these three types of therapy can have a huge impact on adults with SPD, the same way one type of therapy has had a huge impact on kids with SPD. But for adults, they talk about occupational therapy for diagnosis, tools, and tricks, physical/vision therapy for strengthening of individual senses, and psychotherapy for secondary related diagnosis, as well as learning to accept SPD, which is also a great point, because that is another aspect of it. It is talking with a talk therapist about how to handle your emotions while you're going through this, and some of this other stuff can be helpful also. It's how I got to the point to where I'm very much like, I try really hard not to get mad at the person doing these things, because they're 99% of the time not doing them to be obnoxious or to bother a person. Occasionally they are, popping bubble wrap for 45 minutes in a row. It's like, okay, enough, dude. Like, that's, like I don't care who you are. That's probably going to be like at a certain point. It's like if a car alarm, right? Like you hear a car alarm in the middle of the night or something, and they just don't ever turn it off. To me, my brain at some point will just be like, that's all I can hear. That's all I can focus on. But I know I'm not alone, because I've been with people who do not have sensory issues, and they're at some point like, geez, why won't someone turn that off? So there is obviously overlap in some of this stuff. But like for me, it's like if I'm in a car with somebody and they have their keys and their keys keep clicking the wheel, like as they swing, you just keep hearing this tick, 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 right? After about a minute of that, I want to like reach over and take the keys out, and throw them out the window. So what I find is I typically get mad at inanimate objects a lot, because that's really where most of this comes down to. Like I said, it's generally not that a person's trying real hard, but this is where therapy can really help, because you really start going, hey, it's not fair of me to scream at someone for some noise they're making, because generally they're not trying to annoy me. And they have every right to eat as much as I have every right to sit in the room as well. And there's a better way to handle it than being like about it, because that's generally not going to get you anywhere. So if it's around somebody who I know, I'll try to explain to them why something bothers me and ask them not to do it if they can, And most of the time, and most of the people I know have been pretty accommodating about that, and that helps. So yeah. Number 10 on here is, our tools and tricks may look funny, but they're effective, which I won't lie. I've been in the middle of a crowded restaurant, stuck my fingers in my ears, and basically gone la 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 la, because I need to break the cycle. I need to not hear whatever I'm hearing. So as a full-grown adult, I've sat in a public place and basically la 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 la, my fingers in my ears. But it helps sometimes, and that's what's got to happen. Usually I'll just get up and go to the bathroom, because that will usually do it. But I have sat and just done the other before, though. And I feel like an idiot, but it's like, hey, this is what I got to do right now.
Oh, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. This person says that they wear blue tinted glasses most of the time because they help me process visual information, which I actually did that for a while. You remember that, Jen? Like, I got a pair of glasses that I asked them to put a minor tint on because I get migraines if I stare at bright computers, but I also don't like to turn the brightness down because then it's a little harder for me to read. So I just got a tint on my glasses that was like a real light, kind of a brownish tint. And oh my God, did it make a difference? You know, it was so helpful on some days where, especially if, you know, I could feel like I was probably going to get a migraine. There's like a feeling you get in your head, and all your senses get really, really sensitive. You know, the least little smell kind of hurts, and, you know, just having your eyes open. But it allowed me to still be able to use my computer or phone or whatever. But yeah, it says, she says, or they say, I play with fur-covered statues shaped like animals because they feel good on my fingertips and help me calm down. I talked about that a few weeks ago, I think, didn't I? Where I was talking about, like, I have one blanket that's super soft, and I will literally run my fingers in the blanket because it reminds me of petting a cat or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing. There's a calmingness, like Jen said earlier, and this points out here, you know, pets are great weighted blankets, you know. But they said they sleep under a 17-pound blanket because it helps me understand where my body ends, and so I can rest enough to fall asleep. I tote around 2 different decibel levels of earplugs at all times. You know, normal? Not really. Helpful? Yes. 100 times yes. Worrisome? Nope. What we do to keep our senses regulated, and these techniques, among others, are highly effective. And, you know, I think it helps with the earplugs and stuff now because of everybody having, like, earbuds in so frequently. That's such a common occurrence now that, especially if you have the noise-canceling ones or whatever, if those are what help you, you just look normal. You look like everybody else wearing those, you know. Earplugs or, you know, full-on cans are a little different. Those stand out a little bit more, but still, I think we're getting to a point where I don't really pay attention to it anymore. You know, like if I see people out with cans on or whatever, I don't look at it as, you know, different or weird anymore. It's just like, okay, you know. So, and then the last one on here that they have is, we're not that different from you, and yet sometimes we are. You already know this, remember? I gave you a gold star for your open-mindedness and truly believe that nothing I've said here is too bizarre or complex to grasp. Surely nothing is beyond your warmth and kindness. In a world where we all engage with the senses to some degree, SPDers just engage with them a bit differently. They can be overwhelming or underwhelming. They can cause emotions and behaviors to surface, and we have therapies and ways of keeping our unique needs at bay. We still get up in the morning, brush our teeth, and make breakfast. We love our families and friends. We work hard and we play hard when we're able. Sometimes in between, though, things get a bit iffy for us. We feel overwhelmed, we get scared, we fight against that very old negative voice inside that says, hey, wackadoodle, you are strange. This is, do you know an adult with SPD? Love them, care about them. Just be you, an educated, nurturing version of yourself. Ask how you can support them and let them guide you. Don't question their methods, just understand their purpose. And I think, yeah, it really is just a being kind of a thing, and just that last part, just, you know, ask if there's something that can help. And the best way that I've told other people when I've tried to explain to them kind of how this feels is, I think most people have dealt with a bad headache at some point. And, you know, like when you have a bad headache, like, you know, just, you don't really want to talk with people. It kind of bothers you. You know, lights can kind of be, you know, you can be a little sensitive to that. You just really don't, you're not yourself usually in that space. And that's usually kind of what this does to a lot of us with some sort of sensory issue, is it really takes you out of being who you normally would be a little bit. And that's why the tools and techniques and different stuff, you know, really help us to try to get back into that conversation or that scenario that we're part of, you know. Because, like, you know, like we talk about, like with that scenario Heno you know, within the restaurant, the second we walked outside, I'd be able to talk with him again. I'd be able to focus on our conversation. Even though I would carry it with me, I would still be able to go back to just talking to him. Or as soon as that person stopped, I'd be able to, kind of go back to quote, air quote, normal. Even though I'd still probably be mad for a few minutes, but I'd still be able to engage again. So there you go. That's that article on that. I hope it helps people, because a lot of people suffer with some sort of form of sensory issue, whether it's they don't like the touch of something, they don't like, who doesn't know somebody who doesn't like a certain food because of the texture of the food in their mouth? Like I can't eat cottage cheese for that reason. Also, I think it's gross, but but the texture of it, I can't handle it. And there's foods like that are out there that I don't, and I know other people, they don't have any other sort of real sensory issues, but it'll be that, or they don't like the feel of this on whatever. And again, like with me, with art, it was a real problem for me because I don't like my hands having stuff on them. It bugs me to no end. It absolutely crazily bugs me to no end. And now I know it's a sensory issue. For a long time, I just thought that it was some weirdness, like. So it doesn't make it easy, though. That's a really tough degree to go into if you don't like stuff on your hands. Considering,
yeah, I imagine.
Pencils, pastels, paints, everything you pretty much end up with on your hands. So anyway, there you go.
Well, that was a really great article and something that I don't think people talk about enough. Sensory issues are a big thing. Like you just mentioned, Brian, that I think most of us have something, that it's, whether it's something you eat, whatever, but with me, it's textures and against my skin.
Yeah.
I've got to be really careful. Like I'm very particular about the fabrics that I wear because they can irritate me. That just feels weird to me. I'm not comfortable. And my neck, I'm super sensitive on my neck. Like anything, no turtlenecks, no high necks, nothing tight, no chokers. No, I mean, even someone touching my neck, I'm really sensitive to it.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And also, I didn't mention, a lot of people that have migraines very much have a lot of sensory issues. They may not have the disorder, but they very much, like I said, like I can really feel like if I'm in a migraine situation or gonna have one, I get so sensitive to everything. Temperature, smells, sight, every bit of my senses is just, maybe not touch, but that, other than that, I'm very, very kind of heightened at that point to where things can hurt or be really irritating at that point. So, if you know someone with migraines or have them yourself, you have experienced some sensory stuff probably, Like you said, I think we all probably have something, in there.
So we covered a lot of ground on this episode, and I know that you have some questions, concerns, comments, and critiques. So if you would like to reach out to us, and we know that you do, you can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also, that's our website. Our email address, thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. You can reach us there. And Heno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Heno, and Facebook and Instagram and Facebook Messenger, Heno Heiter, where you can see my cute little floof of a puppy and all the silliness that they are up to. And check out my other podcast, Moving the Needle Podcast, where this week we reviewed the 1984 Dune and compared it to the 2021 Dune. So it was Dune versus Dune, or as Sean called it, Duh versus Dune, because this 2021 Dune wasn't a complete story.
Right. Yeah, it's part one of 3, I think they're planning.
Yeah. And 84 Dune was actually all 3 books in one, and this one is they're wherever they're at. It's interesting because they did a portion of it, and it was actually longer than the original.
Yeah,
kind of gives you a hint about how good the original 84 one was.
Amazing,
Yeah.
right?
It was. I hadn't seen the 84 version in probably, it's been a while, and I think I've seen it. That's the third time, and probably won't ever watch it again.
I haven't. Yeah, I watched that back when I worked at Hollywood Video, so sometime between 96 and 98 or 2000 range, and I haven't seen it since. So
Yeah,
I don't even remember the movie, honestly.
I watched it in the 80s, and then I watched it again sometime in the 90s, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why none of this made sense to me. And then watching it again this week, I'm like, all right, still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, that was I asked some people because I have not read any of the books. I swear I thought for a long time I'd read the first book, but the more I think about it, I think it was just one of those books that I bought at some point and probably never read. Because as I've read like synopsis and details, I'm like, none of that sounds familiar to me. So either I've forgotten it completely or I never read it. And I'm guessing I never read it. I think I just thought I did. And which is weird because that feels like a book I would have read back then, like in the 90s or whatever, because I was more into like sci-fi and different stuff in those worlds back then. So it's a little weird I never read that one. Or again, it's just been, 100 years since the 90s, so I've just forgotten it.
Yes, forgotten it in our old age, huh?
Very possible. Very possible. All right. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram if you want to follow me at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language on Twitter. I believe we're just Salty Language on Instagram. I can never remember because we had to use different names and it's annoying. And anyway, or if you just go to saltylanguage.com, all the links to our social media stuff's there. And you can also find the newest episode of the show where we talk about, air frying hams, me getting my booster shot this past week. We gripe about social media, talk about Stargazy Pie, Disney Plus Day, Elden Ring that's going to be coming out, Arby's Vodka. So, it was a whole mess of stuff. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please go check us out. The show's not safe for work, so please be aware of that. And you can find this show on Facebook, or Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/Crazy Life Podcast. We are part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go check out the other shows over there. And as always, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of help and groups and different stuff out there to help people. So please reach out, to ask for help. I know it's really hard, but all three of us here have done it. We've been there. We know how hard it is, but you can do it and you're not alone. So, a lot of people before you and after you have done it, so you can definitely do it too. Even if you don't feel like it, we have faith in you. You can do it. And also, please reach out to your friends and make sure they're doing okay and everything. As always, I ask for everyone to be kind, to one another, and please put good energy out there. But I also want to reiterate what I said, I think last week or whatever. It's like, this time of year, a lot of people want to, feel generous and do give, monies or whatever. And if you're, someone who can and would like to, please consider your local food banks and shelters because they've been hit really hard, by the supply chain stuff as well, because they haven't been able to get as much food donated because a lot of people have not been as, wanting to donate food. So please help out if you can. If you can't, no pressure, but, just if... Sorry, Jen just made this very strange look. So I'm assuming something crazy must have went on behind her.
My dog is having a sneezing fit.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay. So anyway, please help out if you can.
Absolutely. And along those lines, something I saw that really resonated with me. For those that do the Santa stuff in the household, don't the expensive gifts, those aren't Santa. Take credit for those. Take, medium-sized gifts and give those for Santa to take credit for. Because what's happening is some children aren't as fortunate, and which is fine, but they can't get the expensive gifts from Santa. And so then they're left wondering what they didn't do right. And it can be kind of a very difficult situation. So help everybody out and, just save the expensive stuff if you're able to do that for your children, which is absolutely wonderful that you're able to do so. Take credit for that. Say that's mom's gift, and like I said, just leave medium-sized gifts for Santa, because he's got a lot of kids that he's got to take care of. So with that, go out there, have the best week you possibly can. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, whichever way, shape, or form that you decide to have it. Enjoy yourself. Be safe out there. And remember, the point is to have a nice meal with people that you care about. If you can accomplish that, you've succeeded.
Yep. And if not, have it with your family. No.
So go out there, have the best week you possibly can. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and share the caring with everyone. So have a good one, folks.